Okay, welcome to Out Motorsports After Dark, the podcast by and for the Out Motorsports community. Out Motorsports is the LGBT driving enthusiast community for cars as you are. I'm Matthew Walker, one of your hosts, and I'm running on hopes and dreams today.
I'm Ian Blankenship, one of your other hosts, and I'm driving a lemon.
And I'm Donnie Nordlich, your third host for the evening. And I am driving, it was a moving van earlier today, and it sounds more fun than it was.
Well, glad to see you guys today. Is everyone doing good this week? How's everyone? It's only a Tuesday.
It's January 96th as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's only Tuesday, but it feels like 3 Mondays ago.
Yeah, I'm very ready to have summer come back. This winter has been truly brutal. It's been like actually cold, and I am not about it.
Yeah. For the first time really in my life, it's been cold enough. It has snowed, it has iced, and it has continued to be cold to the point where the snow and the ice is still here. There's still mounds of snow sitting around here, and that never happens. Usually it snows, and then a day later it's 50 degrees.
Right.
I would love a little more snow here in the Northeast. I know everybody in the South and Central have gotten more than their fair share, but it's been okay. It's actually been like a normal winter here, which is nice because we haven't had that in a few years. So it was like, felt good to break out like the big snow boots and the gloves and the big fuzzy earmuffs and, you know, always wanting to make sure your car is warm and the seat heaters are on. And it was like nice to have winter again here. I know I'm in the minority with that.
It's so crazy. You're describing my hell. Okay. Tonight we are going to be talking about what is going on with Stellantis. We'll be talking about carsize.com. Cars today are ginormous. And anything else that comes up in the chat or in the live chat. We have Mark, Tyler, Clay, lots of new faces in the chat. I need to meet some of you in the Discord, apparently. But Donnie brought up earlier the new Wagoneer, the EV Wagoneer. Donnie, can you tell us about it a little bit?
Sure. So this is what is now known as the Jeep Wagoneer S, which is Jeep and Stellantis' first truly mainstream full EV in the U.S. market. That's a lot of caveats, I know. I say that because they have sold the Jeep Avenger overseas for a couple of years now. It's actually gotten rave reviews and it won World Car of the Year a couple of years ago, but that was deemed too small for the U.S. market. And then the only other full EV that Stellantis has on the market right now is the new Charger Coupe that just went on sale, and that's not really a mass market appeal vehicle, maybe when the stand comes out, and then the 500e, which we can talk about as well. So the Wagoneer S has had a bit of a bumbling existence. Bumbling is not fair. It's had a tough existence already. It debuted as a concept while the Wagoneer brand was its own brand, and looked really slick and like a really great direction forward for Jeep and for Stellantis and full EVs. I don't know. To me, it kind of hit this perfect blend of like, it's a car and seems car-like for normal people, but still looked really cool and futuristic. That was a number of years ago, and it's just hitting the market imminently. It's not feeling as fresh in my mind, but maybe that's because I'm a car person and I'm keeping up with the news all the time and paying attention to everything going on. And that's sort of the overview on that. Yeah. What I'm wondering is, like, how did we get here? Was this supposed to be just Jeep Grand Cherokee EV and it got caught up in marketing and product planning? Could this have been a Chrysler to help build out that brand because the airflow was on and off over and over again? I'm just like very curious. I'm very curious all of your thoughts. And I apologize. I do not have the specs for the car in front of me, so I'm going to pull that up
Yeah,
while Matthew and Ian chime in. Oh.
Yeah, I asked Google to tell me about it, so it's 30% chance it's right. It starts at 65, goes up to maybe about 70, and 300-mile range, and it's an EV. It does 0 to 60 and too fast. I think my first question is, do Jeep people want an electric car?
And I think the answer is no.
See, I think the answer is yes.
Because I guess it's a mixed bag, right? Because like you say Jeep, and I immediately think of a Wrangler and like the Wrangler crowd. But you do have an entire side that buys Cherokees and Grand Cherokees. So I imagine they would be down for an EV SUV. I want to say that it looks so plain that it's underwhelming, but that should be a selling point considering the things that I've said about EVs in the past and how ridiculous they look. It feels like a car. I think I'm just very out of the demographic.
I think you made a really interesting point because, asking the question of do Jeep buyers want this? It was sort of like the same question everybody asked around the first ML and X5 and Cayenne of like, oh, well, does the Cayenne actually make sense for the Porsche brand? And it's like, well, yeah, it does because they gave it enough Porsche DNA. And it fit the use case for so many of current and new buyers. I don't know if this falls quite under the same bracket, but I think that there are enough Jeep buyers who buy Jeep for the mystique. And I'm not saying that in a denigrating way. I think that is a very important part of brand building. And just because this isn't an off-roader out the gate, there's a Trailhawk version coming, doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. I know that there's been mixed comments about that in all of the reviews from the first drives.
I can agree with some of what you said. I want to take a step back. What what is the mystique of Jeep?
I'm trying to figure out who she is. Like, what's a Jeep?
I mean, I immediately think of Wranglers and off-roading and Moab and all of that sort of world, even if it's not necessarily true in the same way, but not in this go anywhere to the ends of the earth concept that Range Rover might have. Again, we're just talking about brand mystique, whether or not the mystique is valid. I don't think it's the same kind of rough and tumble that when I think of like Toyota, especially outside of the U.S. market, when I think of things like the Hilux and the Land Cruiser and the Land Cruiser Prado, and even in the U.S. the 4Runner, that's sort of a more rough and tumble. This is sort of this like in between world. Like I think this is obviously the original Grand Cherokee really put that on the map in that it could go anywhere from being a city slicker to truly off-road. And I think that sort of mystique holds on, and having things like Trailhawk models helps build that because they still have the cred when they want to make the cars. And not everybody wants to buy a car like that, which I think is a very valid point as well.
Yeah. I also agreed with another thing you mentioned, that it might have been better as a Chrysler. And I think that is a real thing that needs to be discussed. Because I think one thing I watched happen as Stellantis has appeared in the industry is that they don't know what to do with the American brands, because they have this idea of Jeep and they want it to be everything, and they want you to have your luxury SUV and they want you to have your off-road this, and Jeep has never been that. It has always just been very basic American off-roading. Maybe you got like an air conditioner in your whatever back in the day. And I think they're trying to make Jeep something that it isn't, and they're just not doing a good job of pushing it on people. Because I agree. I think the Wagoneer S with a different face would make an excellent Chrysler.
I think I don't know why they haven't been, because they can do that. They should be doing that. To some degree, that is what Ford has done. Ford doesn't make cars. They make Jeeps. Toyota has, I think we counted the other day, like 11 or 12 crossover / SUV things in their lineup, and somehow they're all selling. Like there is what Jeep is doing is being done. They like, I feel like if they are able to take, like, do they have hybrids? Like
Yeah,
can
the
you
4xe, they have all the plugins.
a 30 mile per gallon or higher like hybrid Jeep? Like,
I don't think so.
I don't see. I feel like this is what we were talking about this before we started recording. So we're going to rehash this a little bit. I guess apologies to the co-hosts and everybody else. You're welcome. We were talking about Stellantis, and Ian, you make such a good point of like, what is going on with the brands. And I just think about how it's 16, right? If I remember correctly, brands within the Stellantis portfolio were given 10 years to prove themselves. Almost like somewhat blank check is my understanding. And we're around year 5-ish, which is when big corporations, not just automotive, start to get the heebie-jeebies. Because when you look at a 10-year plan about changing over models, especially products with a very long development cycle like cars that have a 5-ish year development cycle, and changing biodemographics and buyer perception, that's like a 10-year plan. And right around year 4 or 5 is when sales tend to tank. Your loyalists who are not coming along for the ride are pissed off and not buying cars. You haven't quite gotten the new people yet. You've like piqued their interest, but it's like the product is about to catch up. And it's like we're kind of at that point now with year 5 with this whole like Stellantis giving all of its brands 10 years to try. So I'm curious, like maybe we're being like overly critical of the Wagoneer S and thinking like, oh, well, it should have been a Chrysler because Chrysler doesn't have anything. Well, maybe this is the harbinger of everything else that's coming.
no,
I don't know. Maybe I'm being Pollyanna.
because I just looked up because Chrysler is only making Chrysler has like 2 cars, right? The 300 and the minivan. Yeah.
They still make the 300?
I don't think they're making the 300.
Great. So they only make a minivan. This is just proving my point
Yeah,
more.
it's just a Pacifica.
On Fiat's website, the only thing they sell in the US is the 500e. The only thing Alpha has is the toenail and the what's the other thing? The Giulia, right? Do they still make the SUV thing?
The Stelvio, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And then you've got Jeep. All 4 of those can be one brand. They don't need to be like 4 separate brands. Like
I have a question.
Consolidate.
I have a question for you, and I don't disagree, but what are the global global repercussions of something like that? Where I think in the US we've gotten kind of tired of this Jeep mystique that none of us, or at least of the 3 of us, were able to really put our fingers on super well. But I think I have to think, especially in like the European market, it has a very different image and different kind of cachet because of this Americanness. I think a lot about sort of the concept of American optimism and what that means in brand marketing, especially around cars, because it's something that is very uniquely American and often a good differentiator because it's uniquely American. And I just like, I don't know, I get caught up when you look at the Fiat portfolio in the US because yes, they only have 1 car in the US, but they're selling 3 cars in Europe right now, right? 3. The 500e, the convertible version of it, and the 600. Same with Alpha. Well, I guess Alpha, it's the same everywhere. No, they have the Junior overseas. Anyway, I feel like I'm more rambling and info dumping, and I apologize to all of our listeners.
The thing is, it spells doom and gloom.
Yeah.
I don't get it. And not to mention, actually, I just remembered, we need to go to Colorado because in Colorado, you could lease for 27 months or 24 months a Fiat 500e for free. The tax incentives for the government and the state combined is equal to the residual value on the Fiat, so that by the time you get through, you pay the tax, which is like probably $1,200 to $1,500, and you pay nothing for 2.5 years. I will drive that for free. Are you kidding me?
I would say it's very tempting until you read the fine print. It's just for like the base model. There's nothing special about it. And I guess if that's your thing, if that's what you want, then maybe that's those are the hoops you want to jump through, and you can drive a free Fiat.
I mean, this goes back to what we were saying before about the Wagoneer S of like, does it do its duty for every day? Can I get to the grocery store? Can I drop my kid at school? Can I run my errands? I mean, obviously the 500 is a much smaller car than a midsize SUV, but there's probably something to be said for a lot of Americans who just need like basic runaround and probably live in a house or a condo and can plug it in their garage. I mean, I don't know. I think there's value there.
I will say,
value because it's $0.
if someone's needing just like a regular runaround, I just don't feel like a $70,000 EV is it. It just doesn't make sense if you're saying, oh, all it has to do is just get you back and forth to the store. Like a million things can do that for 10 grand. Like,
oh, well, no, we're just getting into the conversation of should we be buying new at all?
well,
or
yes.
should we just have mass transit everywhere? And so the only people driving are people who love driving like us. And that's all I'm going to say because I talk about this on every episode of the podcast.
I don't know. I agree that yeah, as like a basic like midsize luxury SUV, like maybe it's great. Like I don't know. I'm not going to buy it. That's whoever buys it is probably going to love it until they find the next thing that they want to buy.
And I'd add that the Jeeps are big. They don't make anything small, and the small Jeeps are
Fiats.
Penalty boxes. They're really bad.
Okay, well, this comes back to this whole larger Stellantis question of, does every brand in that portfolio need to make every car, or can they each sort of have their sections in their niche? And like, I don't know what the answer is. Obviously, General Motors tried this for a long time. Ford has tried. I mean, every major automaker has kind of tried it in their own way. And the question is, would that make sense here? Is that what we'll see? I don't know. I think they're doing badge engineering really well right now in Europe, with the like Peugeot 208, Peugeot 208, Lancia Ypsilon, Opel Corsa. I think it's the Opel Corsa, and then all the SUV versions. Like they're all very like nicely differentiated, at least stylistically, and I feel like they're serving different buyers. And maybe that makes sense to do here again. Like, modern K cars.
Yeah?
Yes, I'm very down for modern K car.
I will say, going back to the American brands, though, that are part of Stellantis, it seems like the two brands that could have done everything and could sell a car in every segment are the ones getting the least amount of attention. So Chrysler and Dodge are the two brands who historically had like their model lineup covering a big swath of the segment in the market. And now they make Chargers, trucks, and minivans. And that's
what we forgot. We forgot the moneymaker in the room. We haven't talked about Ram at all.
I want to talk about Ram. Actually, I know nothing about Ram. You guys can do that. But Dodge, I in more recent years have developed a huge appreciation for Dodge because they are like car guy wet dream to the max with no compromises to the dream. It is just colors, stupid names, crazy horsepower, burnout boxes, and I love that. Like they built a brand on that, and I kind of wish I could buy a Charger brand new.
Well, you should apply to be one of their badassadors.
Excuse me?
The Dodge badassador.
I can become a badassador for Dodge. I need to know what it is.
I'll send you a link.
I have to say, I saw a headline about the new Charger recently from a dear friend of mine, Patrick George, talking about how they set out to make not an electric muscle car. They set out to make a muscle car that just happens to be electric, and they have achieved that goal. And I wholeheartedly agree here. Like, it's really cool. As much as I hate the very, very loud Hellcat engines that roar under my window much too frequently at night, it's just like, it's cool. Like, as a car person, it's so cool that they've been able to build a brand and sustain it, as far as I can tell, through sales decently. Um, yeah, everybody who's an industry insider or knows anything about the auto industry, like, gives them crap for reutilizing that LX platform that may or may not have come from an E-Class. But you know what? Good on them. Good on them for figuring out ways to keep it updated enough, or subsidizing leases enough. I don't know. I should look into it, to keep sales and brand excitement going. Like, that's actually really cool and really admirable in this, like, cutthroat, razor thin margin industry.
Yeah, I can definitely get on board with that, because I mean, what do you see and hear everywhere at every street corner at 3 a.m.? It's a Charger or a Challenger.
Keep Dodge keeping you up at night. Dodge on, yeah, Ian, just for everyone to know, Ian sent me the link indeed, and it is a Badassador. Defined
You
on
got
the
to say it,
website.
Badassador.
Badassador, defined as a brand ambassador with a Dodge attitude. We're looking for some next level badassery here. Become a Badassador and represent the OG of performance brands. Wow. You only need to be 18. Not even old enough to have a driver's license.
And there's no details about what they're going to pay you. So maybe they're paying you an exposure, which, hey, that's super valuable.
They can pay me in a car.
I mean, listen, this is like, I think it was last year, the positions to drive the Wienermobile were up, and you could apply for that.
Oh my God, why did I not know this?
For anybody who's watched or listening to this later and did not see, like, Matthew's full-on elation. Yeah, so it's actually
out to drive the Wienermobile.
It's a really cool program. I remember reading about it. I'm pretty sure it was last year when they were doing, it's not auditions, like, you apply, and they purposely are looking for people who I think are, like, later in college or just out of college, who are looking to do, like, brand ambassador work, maybe work in marketing, maybe work in branding, maybe work in some kind of field operations or customer service. And it's, like, actually a really, like, cool gig. I don't think it pays very well. I remember seeing, like, the salary listed, but it was like,
drive the Wienermobile. What else?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of
drive the Wienermobile.
It's a lot of
How
travel.
cool is that?
So, I mean, if that's your thing too, traveling is a big part of it, because the Wienermobile goes everywhere. I think I would not want to do that
thing on the highway.
It's a lot of pressure to drive the Wienermobile.
All over the place, flopping.
I mean, I feel like. Oh, come on. The Wienermobile must have better aerodynamics than the LL Bean Bootmobile.
Well, don't forget there's also the Mini Cooper wieners. The mini sausages, or whatever they call them. Yeah.
What?
And one of them was in a wreck last year, and it was all over the news, and it was like the most embarrassing little fender bender, but everybody knew about it.
It's so
How did I not know? I didn't know about this.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
It's like a little.
This is like way off of our written topics, but
it's
seriously.
Oh my God.
Cooper. It's a yellow Mini
It's
Cooper.
It's like a little sausage.
With a little hot dog on top. It's the little ones in barbecue sauce in the crock pot. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Oh God. I just found all the information about its collision. It was on a roller. I mean, sorry, it rolled over.
That's what I'm saying. Like, driving the Wienermobile is a big responsibility, and it's a lot of stress that I don't want.
It's a cocktail weenie.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't. It is very stressful. I can imagine.
What brand makes the big Wienermobile?
I don't know, but the headlights are from a Pontiac Grand Am.
I think it's like a GM heavy duty platform. I'm trying to remember. Somebody somewhat recently did a deep dive on the LL Bean Boot Mobile, which that is like a GMC heavy duty platform. That's another. We'll have to put this in our list for another time. But that would be a fun topic. The headlight and taillight suppliers that get utilized everywhere. Like, who knew the Oldsmobile Alero's headlights would actually be the most popular thing about that car?
Crazy.
So on topic, if it's a 2001 Wienermobile, it's made by Craftsman Industries on a Ram 1500 chassis, powered by a 5.2 V8 Magnum. So with that,
obviously,
so if you supercharge that, would that be like a spicy Wienermobile?
Hell yeah, super wiener. On topic, I am on Dodge's website. They still make the Durango and the Hornet. We love the Durango. Quick Durango story. I was on the highway in my GR86 and I was up in the DC area. So I'm in the regular lanes, not paying a toll, and this Durango is on the toll side, and so we're divided. Anyways, I go whizzing by a Durango Hellcat over there, and as I'm going, I see this kid. He like stuffs his nose into the window as I go by, and I'm like, haha, he thinks my car's cool. And then the driver, his mom, like floors it, and I hear the supercharger just start sucking from behind me, and I'm like, oh, here they come. They want to race. And she pulls up, slows down. His window is right there. He's got the window down. He has his phone and he's taking pictures of my little 86. And I'm like, bro, you are in a Hellcat and you are concerned about this little car. Anyways, Ram trucks. What do you guys know? I know nothing.
I know it's a truck.
Matt Marshall in the live chat was saying a few minutes ago that is the most interesting to him from Dodge.
I think my understanding is they're good. They're good trucks.
Well, another Out Motorsports member did just buy one, although not brand new, a couple years ago. Out Motorsports member Mason, who's up in the Midwest, he and his partner just bought one to tow their new Airstream, and had a ton of like really thoughtful reasons why they picked that over the Ford and the Chevy or the GMC. And I do have to say that screen, even though I remember when, I guess it wasn't technically this generation Ram, it was the last one, the big screen came out, it still looks great. Those screens work really well. I mean, it's good and it's nice, and those trucks ride really well. Going back to our original topic of EVs, why the Ram Rev isn't out yet boggles my mind, but I also understand how product development works and how everything takes forever, especially when it's a new technology. Was that?
It's going to be Hummer sized?
No, it's going to be like just a full size 4-door Ram. Good it's the Ram Charger. Is that what they're calling it now? The Ram Charger, the one that's like essentially an E-Rev.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Scout's doing that too. The Volt did it back in the day. So did the i3. I feel like that might be where it's at for the like near future. I don't know. I'm very interested to see it. I'm very interested to see how that works in a Ram pickup application.
That sounds cool. I approve of the TRX.
I don't.
Why? What's wrong with the TRX?
So boring. Big truck, loud, fast. Who cares?
We were just singing the praises of the Hellcat engines.
Yes. You were singing the praises.
It is big, but it is just all the perversions of like extreme car guy thoughts put into a vehicle with no compromises, and no one does that anymore.
Does that mean I'm not a car guy? Because I literally have no appeal with the TRX.
Don't listen to him. You are totally a car guy just because you don't have it.
I feel like the people who buy those are not car people. I think they are
so
looking
hold on.
for attention.
Oh my gosh. I mean, we express ourselves through our cars. We we want the attention.
And so when you buy a TRX, the thing you're expressing to everyone else is that they should get the fuck out of your way, that wall is too close, and this everybody has to bend to the size of my truck, is what they're telling me.
I'm a big believer in whatever your car love is that makes you a car lover and car enthusiast, that is valid. It's like, don't kink shame. It's the same concept of like, listen, I might not be into drift cars or crazy off-roading trucks, but if you love them and that's what makes you a car enthusiast, I am here for it.
I agree.
All drag is valid.
And come on, is a Ram TRX or a Ford Raptor nothing but drag?
I mean, it is, and they're
clowns.
Cool.
They're
what
clowns.
they are is cool. I don't like them. Something can be cool, and I don't have to like it.
It's true.
I do have to say, I noticed in the chat that Nicole's dad just got a Ram Rebel, which is not quite a TRX, but we might have to have them on once they've driven their dad's truck. Get a POV.
I do agree that in general, cars are too big. And speaking of, in the Discord this week, Ian, you brought up the carsize.com website. You can compare side by side, both visually and with also the actual specs, two different cars. And I've been playing with it all week. Notable mention, in my mind, I always thought the new Volvo S60 was the same, bigger than the old Volvo S80. But per the website, the S80 is still bigger than the S60. Not by much. We're talking a couple inches. But it is still wider and longer. And I found that interesting because to me it seemed, and it is effectively the replacement, but proportionally you don't see it with the way the cars are designed.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. No, that's something that a lot of designers are really guilty of is hiding the real size of the vehicles that they're producing.
Yeah, because Don, who was pointing out that the Civic is a big car, and I was like, I just don't believe you. I just don't feel like it's that big. And I was comparing it with a whole bunch of cars, and I'm like, what? No, there's no way it's actually that long. And the Civic hides its size really well.
I was thinking about this today, actually, mostly because Ian put it in my head from carsize.com. Well, I was driving back into the city earlier today, and on my left was an original first and a half generation Highlander, which, God, those still look so good. And then a brand new RAV4 was on my right. Mm-hmm. And I was like looking at the Highlander and thinking like, God, this is such a good car. It was such a perfect size. Like, it still looks so good. And then I looked at the RAV4 and I'm like, it's the same size. Mm-hmm. Like, it is exactly the same size. It's the same car, essentially, at least as far as, like, mission from when that Highlander came out versus now. And I was like, well, this is a very interesting concept, and I don't know how I feel about this.
Well, yeah, you take a new RAV4 and you compare it to the first gen, it's like a completely different universe. Like, imagine like today's RAV4 with a two-door and a soft top with a spare tire sticking off the back of it.
Back then, you could actually take the RAV4 off-roading.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, dude.
I actually think you could probably do it better now with, like, a RAV4 Adventure.
The
only reason I say this... Go ahead, Matthew.
I witnessed a RAV4 Adventure off-road, and it did do better than we expected.
The reason why I'm hesitating is because I fell down a rabbit hole the other week in Car and Driver's archives, which bravo to the team at Car and Driver who have been digitizing all of their archival stuff. I mean, so awesome.
And important, very important.
Yeah. And there was one of their off-road comparison tests that was like all of the SUVs across the spectrum, literally from a first gen RAV4 to like a Defender and everything in between, and the RAV4 did not do great. Like it did not do super well.
On
But,
that note, I don't know if it was a Car and Drive or if it was a Motor Trend, but it was same deal. One of those very old and nostalgic off-roader reviews, and I saw one yesterday, which is even more relevant, an Acura SLX. And I was reading reviews because I kind of want to buy a Trooper, and the Trooper was considered luxurious and way more capable, and I think it lost to like either the Cherokee or something by like only a few points, and they were like by far best vehicle to buy the Trooper. And I you never see them today, but man, I want one so bad.
yeah, they were very good at the time. I mean, you also have to think about what this segment was and what was being asked of it. I think people cared a lot less about being able to go to a grocery store in a car like a Trooper than go to a grocery store that's across a mountain pass. Yeah, my understanding is they were really good. If you're serious about an Acura SLX, there is a friend of Out Motorsports based in Phoenix who knows a thing or two about Acuras and has owned a SLX or two.
Yeah.
Who I'm sure would happily help you find one.
Yeah, I think I do want a Trooper though, but they're both incredible. If I could find one in green over beige, because I don't think they made a tan interior, but they did make a green exterior. That'd be incredible.
They just had a good look to them, though. I mean,
yes, boxy cars are best cars.
Well, boxy, but also like kind of smooth in the right spots. Like,
yeah,
I think I understand how.
I don't know, knockoff is. I don't want to say knockoff. They did the same formula well in their own way because they're all knocking off each other.
I think it'll be. I don't know. I'm curious to see what the perspective of like a well-sorted Trooper through today's lens might be. Because I'm thinking back now to we had an 01 Montero at one point. And it was fully loaded. It was like a Montero Limited. Yeah.
Hell yeah. They're so cool.
Monteros were very cool.
They were so cool. It was so cool. And I remember it was like, it seemed so nice with like the like nice rouged black leather interior. Ours was black interior with a silver exterior. And it was before like everything was color mapped. So there was like nice chrome trim. It had this digital compass and altimeter and all the off-road stuff showing like approach and departure angles and vehicle angle that like nobody actually needed anymore or very few people needed in the US market. And it was so cool, but it was like, sorry, what?
Those are my favorite parts. Those are my favorite parts about the Mitsubishis. They had all those little dials and whatnots.
Yeah, it was just so. It was so great. Thank you, Chris, for correcting me. The inclinometer. Yeah, it was just. I don't know. It was so cool, but it so quickly just became like. It was cool, but it was like the wrong vehicle. To this day, I had wished my parents had waited 6 months and we could have gotten the Explorer, the first gen of the 3-row, with the egg crate grille, which would have been a much better fit of a vehicle for us. But I don't know, there was just something so charming about that Montero. And Rob, I agree with you on the Montero Sport, but I'm also biased on that because there was the very attractive older son of family friends of ours who had a Montero Sport. And just, I remember him driving me around Connecticut in his Montero Sport. And I was just like desperately trying not to swoon. He was a football player.
I am just so surprised that you had a Mitsubishi Montero because where I grew up, they were everywhere in Jamaica, right? But they weren't very popular here in the US. Like your parents went off the beaten path to find that. It was
really interesting. It was replacing our 92 Land Cruiser. So that's a 70 series Land Cruiser. That we had bought new, we had driven all over the place. We drove it on the beach a ton, into the ocean in the Outer Banks in North Carolina. It was like the kid cars, so it got pretty beat up. And we replaced it Oh, it was a 92, not a 92 and a half, so it didn't have a center high mount stoplight. Also, that was like, just remember it was 92 and a half, got the Chimsel and an optional leather interior, and like ours did not have that. Um, but yeah, so we replaced it around the turn of the millennium, and my parents were pretty determined that they wanted 3 rows still. And I was like, we really don't need it. Like, it seems silly to like make our search so much smaller in different vehicles just because like you feel we need a 3rd row. Um, so at the time, we didn't have a ton of choices. It was get another Land Cruiser, which was a lot bigger and a lot more expensive at the time. I mean, still is. The Montero. I'm trying to remember what else they looked at. They looked at the Range Rover, which would have been a P38, which didn't have a 3rd row.
Dodge that bullet.
Yeah, well, yes and no. I mean, I would have loved to have had a P38 when I was younger. I'm trying to think of what else we even looked at. Like, they didn't want a Suburban. Like, Suburban was too big. They didn't want a Tahoe. They didn't really like American cars as much as I was trying to get them to at least be more receptive. I guess the Excursion was out at that point, which was too big.
Oh gosh.
Those were
The Excursion, but I meant the Expedition and the Navigator and the Escalade. Like those were all brand new at that time, and they were all kind of too big, too flashy. Yeah, that's kind of how we ended up with a Montero. Like if that 3-row Explorer had been on sale at that time, that would have been the winner. Because the thing they didn't like about the Land Cruiser was the new Land Cruiser was too big, and they wanted to stay the same size.
Yeah.
I'm sure your family dodged a bullet by not getting that Explorer.
Oh, I'm sure. We only kept the Montero for like a couple of years too.
Ian, what cars did you grow up in around the same time?
Oh man, we didn't have a lot of cars. When I was born, my mom had a Chevy Eurosport, black with the silver two-tone, and then she went into a white Skylark, and then she went to a red Skylark, and then she had a white Windstar, and she had a beige Windstar, and she had a white Town and Country.
I have a very important question about your Windstars because I only just learned this like last week. Did you have the King door, the family door?
No, we had a 95. They didn't bring out the King door until the 97, 98 refresh because they were too cheap to put in a driver's side sliding door.
I'm completely enamored with this now that I've learned about it. Like,
it was weird. It looked weird too when you saw them driving around because the front door was so long, and it was one of those things where, like, if you have like a Ranger or something that had like the little crew door that opened up sideways, and there wasn't a B pillar. That's almost what it felt like opening the driver's door of those Windstars. Because it was like this huge opening for no real reason.
I just Googled it. I've never heard of this. What is going on? Why did they do that?
only just learned about it last week. And the other thing, when I was reading up on it, the fact that like they made essentially like a coupe or I guess Ranger style mechanism to like tilt the seat forward. But that was an option.
Yeah.
But the door was standard.
And is it this door on both sides?
No.
Okay, so the other side has a sliding door still.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a normal front door, like a normal front passenger door was like normal size.
Okay. That makes it feel a little bit better. I thought it was this on both sides. And for anyone listening, it is just an oversized and stretched door that goes like, I don't know, halfway down the car. That is that's ingenious.
I love wacky engineering. And you know what? I think your question is valid because it brings up in my mind, maybe it was just 2 of these giant doors on the Windstar with no sliding doors, and then it was just a shooting brake. It was a 3-row shooting brake. Why didn't they do this?
Oh man! Hey, as a kid, all we had was that Windstar. So when I was drawing pictures or living my little fantasies, it always had like a wing or like a body kit. It was like a street racing van for sure.
Matthew, what did you grow up with?
My parents had a lot of the same cars at the same time. I actually I was born into a Toyota Starlet. Um
Ooh.
and then later they both got at different times Hyundai Excels.
Mm.
One was a hatchback and one was a sedan. One was granny gold. The hatchback was dark blue. That one was a 5-speed or a 4-speed. I'm not sure. But that began my fascination with constantly rowing your own gears everywhere. And then um, my mom got a Sentra, a 96 Sentra. In Jamaica, it would have been a Sunny. And then later on, my dad got a 4-door 92 Sunny, which is actually a really cool car because that was a trim that we didn't get in the US. So that was a 4-door 5-speed all-wheel drive
Oh.
SR20 Sentra. I believe the trim was a GTS. It was pretty cool. It had like bucket seats with like a fun pattern. I was in love with that car. It was a big deal for him to buy it. I remember when, he's thinking about getting it and doing the test drives, and it was like a big deal, and I was all excited. And then he got it, and we had it for a while. And then eventually he sold it, and then we just had the 96 Sunny for until we moved to the US. When we came here, we borrowed a family friend's Scion XB for I think a year. So I learned to drive on an XB, 5-speed. It's a ton of fun. XBs were underrated, literally on a box. Okay, those things were fun. And then we had a Sienna. Love the Sienna. I drove the tires off of that thing everywhere I would go. That V6 would be screaming. It did more on an entrance ramp than it ever needed to. And my dad had an 08, 07 5-speed or 6-speed. I don't remember. It's an 07 manual Accord. Also love that car. And then this is where everything starts to get homogenous again. My mom got a Golf, then my dad got a GLI, and then my dad sold the GLI to my mom, then my dad got a GTI, and then my dad got another GTI. And then
So sporty.
very sporty. Aside from the minivan, all of the cars have been a manual. Is that true? Yeah, everything's been a manual except the minivan, and now we're back to an automatic because my mom has a Santa Cruz now.
Cool.
And that's grown on me, and that has opened my eyes to the Hyundai Kia Genesis world. And I'm really impressed with it. And it's making me want a Genesis, but that's another story.
Oh, in chat, Rob reminded me that my dad also had several cool cars when I was a kid. He had a Nissan Pulsar of some sort.
Ooh.
Didn't have it for very long. It's one of those things where he had it, and then his brother needed it, and then his brother ruined it. So that car was short-lived. And that was why I don't really think of my dad's cars, because they were all really short-lived. He had a lot of cars.
So he was a car guy, proper car guy.
Yeah.
It's funny, like growing up, I always associated the fun cars, like the fun little cars, with mom, because my dad always drove like big sedans, and my mom was the one who had the small fun cars. And it wasn't until later in life that I realized that often it was the flip between the two, because like my mom, when she really started buying like the car she wanted, like she had a 98 A4 2.8 Quattro. She had an IS 300 Sport Cross, short-lived. Silver. It was also silver over black. That was short-lived. We only had it for about 6 months, and then a snowstorm took it out. She slid into a parked garbage truck in Midtown Manhattan and took out the front fender and one side of the car, and then on the way home spun out on 95 and got T-boned, thankfully at slow speed, by a semi-trailer, a semi-tractor trailer. So that went away, and then we had a slew of RXs, simply because at the time that was the only all-wheel drive option Lexus offered. That was the smallest one. And my mom was like, I will drive now. She now has a Polestar 2 dual motor.
Ooh.
Yes.
And has been driving it, quote unquote, all the time. I think she's put like 3,000 miles on it since she's in the past couple of years, and at least 1,100 of those were me. But she loves it, and she texts me every time she plugs it in, which is when it gets below 30% battery, which is once every maybe 6 weeks, if even. It's like comical. I've been telling them to drive it in and out of the city because it's like the perfect city car, and they do. And half the time they'll call me and they're like, "We got home and we like didn't use any battery because we recharged on the way home." I'm like, "Oh my god, you have the perfect EV use case." And my dad had a couple of fun cars. Speaking of dads having fun cars, they sort of came a little later. I wouldn't say midlife crisis because it was definitely not a crisis. It was more like he had enough car people around him, including me, that got him like more interested in sporty cars. So he had a B7 S4, so V8 manual, which got replaced with that actually got replaced by the ATS-V sedan manual that he currently still drives.
Oh, very nice.
He also had, which I then bought off of him, a 2009 S8, so V10 powered Audi Super Saloon. I think that's it as far as fun cars for him.
Those are not a lot, but he's got some heat.
This is the man who taught my mother how to drive in Washington, D.C. in the 70s on a manual transmission Saab. We think it was a Saab 90. I don't know. I kept showing my dad pictures of old Saabs, and I'm like, was it this? Was it this?
Okay, what about this one?
And my mother was always convinced that the car was fun and sporty and clearly a girl because it always broke down on her and never him. And when they met, it was not cool. It probably is looking back. He had some kind of old Pontiac, maybe a Parisienne, that had mismatching fender panels, like they were from multiple different cars. So the car was like 3 different colors.
Interesting.
Yeah, love that. Yeah. I think my dad also taught my mom how to drive a manual, and I think that just stuck. But it's funny, I think she also just grew to enjoy it. I think at first it started as like, well, this is just how you drive a car. And then, automatics became ubiquitous, and it was still just like, no, I'm going to keep driving a manual.
My mom doesn't drive stick.
My mom doesn't remember. It's actually come up recently. We were going somewhere, and we were talking about what car to take, and it was the 3 of us. And my mother was insistent we not take my dad's car because she figured she'd probably have to drive home. And she's like, I'm now at the point where I can drive stick in an emergency situation, but I don't really ever want to have to again. Oh, Lexi, funny you mentioned learning to drive stick in San Francisco. I have a cousin, or I guess she's technically a family friend, but I call her cousin, who lived in San Francisco for many, many years and always drove a manual transmission Mustang. And so I just have all these memories of being in the back of various Mustangs. She had a Fox body. She had what was the one after it? The roundy one? I can't remember what it was called. That one was red. I remember that. And I just
in 95. It didn't have a fun name.
I just remember her like. I didn't know it at the time. She was burning through the clutch to like get up those hills at those stop signs.
I was given a ride in college. I was very drunk, but even still in that drunkenness, I got picked up by my Uber, and it was a manual car, and oh my gosh, it didn't have a clutch. It was slipping, but I figured out why within 2 seconds. I mean, just to get out of the neighborhood, I'm not sure if he took his foot off the clutch at any point. And it would do this weird thing where he would shift the gear, he'd get into second, he'd take his foot off the clutch pedal, and every time he took his foot off, you just hear it banging and like wallowing in the background, just going boing, 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 boing. And I'm like, what is going on with this clutch? Yeah, I have my soul twists whenever I listen to people poorly driving a manual.
Is that something you do?
How do you tell someone, hey, get off the clutch quicker? Like, you can't.
Like when you're in a car with somebody else and they're driving a manual transmission, do you judge them?
I'm not answering.
Do you judge them?
My friends listen to the podcast and they drive me around. I'm not answering that question.
You know what? I'm just happy that somebody is driving a manual and they know how to do it. Actually, one of my closest friends here in the city, he's been in New York for 7 years. He was in DC for many, many years before that. He and his partner have always had a car, but like obviously they don't ever drive it. And he only has driven manual and he loves it. And he's like not a car person at all. He couldn't give two shits about cars, but like he only drives manual. And he is always very upset every time he has to drive his partner's car because they have some old Hyundai Tucson, which is an automatic. And he's like, I hate it. I don't like driving automatic. It's not good.
And that's the opinion you want to listen to, especially if he's not an automotive enthusiast.
Yeah.
Because you know what? He's probably more right than any of us.
Probably. This is making me think of when I learned to drive stick. And part of those lessons, this is a longer story that we can save for another episode, but involved my nanny at the time leaning out the window, cackling at me, laughing every time I stalled trying to get out of a driveway.
How do I undo that? I clicked a button. There we go.
Whoops.
I undid it. Apparently I can show the highlights from the stream on our stream.
Oh.
From the chat on our screen. But we'll figure that out another time. Talking about early driving days. Yeah. My parents, to both ways out of like the neighborhood, require a steep hill exit. And I was insistent on not using the e-brake ever on a hill start because I am just born a pro at driving manual and I'm not using it, right? And well, one time, you know, it had been a couple months that I had now gotten used to it and I felt like I got this. So traffic was coming and normally I wait for the way to be perfectly clear, except today I got this. So traffic was coming and so I had to get out and, you know, get with the flow. And I immediately stalled it right in the lane of traffic as they're on the way. And I'm fumbling to get it to turn on. I didn't push the clutch in. I keep turning the key and I'm like, why won't it turn on? I get the clutch in, I turn the car on, and I like 4,000 RPMs, like maybe even 5. I just stand on the gas, foot off the left. I do a burnout. I have forgotten that I need to turn. So now I'm actually doing a burnout towards the ditch on the other side of the road. And I learned a strong lesson that day in confidence.
I feel like we all learn those lessons. I remember being stuck at a traffic light that I didn't think had an incline on it. Fun fact, it had just enough. And I just getting stuck at this light over and over again, not wanting to use the e-brake, being like, I got this. I had gone to Blockbuster and was on my way home and was like, oh, I made it all the way to Blockbuster. I'm almost home. It's fine. It was not fine. I sat there with the hazards on for like 4 or 5 light cycles, and every time it turned green, I tried to get across I wasn't even across the intersection. Like I couldn't even get up to like the line because it was just like, it was just like, it was like a little bit of a hump, like, and it was just enough. And I finally had to do exactly the same, Matthew, and just like rev the crap out of it and dump the clutch and hold on for dear life. Cause that was a front wheel drive Toyota Matrix XRS.
Oh, wow.
Oh baby. Those were spicy.
They were, and they torque steered, especially when you rev to 4,000 RPM and dump the clutch.
You hit a valve lift to get out of that intersection.
Well, you kind of like are from areas where there are hills and undulations in the roads, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
that's not my experience out here in the Great Plains. As you both know, I drive a 15-year-old Ford Focus, and when I first bought it, it's fine around here. Like there's no hills, everything's flat out here. And then one time, some friends and I got the idea we were going to go to Kansas City, which is up in the northeastern corner of Kansas and into Missouri. And so we were going to have a weekend in Kansas City, and we were going to take Ian's new car. And, there's hills up there, and Ian had never in his life done a hill start. So yes, many, many intersections. I killed the car, especially loaded down with 3 other people and luggage. So it was very embarrassing and a humbling weekend.
It's funny. I always kind of forget about not just topography, but like everybody who lives somewhere else kind of learns to drive differently. And I remember when my parents were teaching me to drive, like one of the big things I got taught to do was to parallel park, because New York City. And I remember my mom making me learn how to parallel park on a street that had a curve and a low curb, because she was like, if you can do this, then you can park anywhere. And it was so awful. And for years after I got my license, I would always park on that street in my hometown because I could. And it was like, I just wanted to keep proving it to myself. And then like I went to college and I met people who had never parallel parked in their lives, who were like from California and, or, had never dealt with hills. Or I remember meeting a girl from New Mexico who had dealt with snow, but not hills. And I'm like, oh, right. The world is very varied. And like,
no, you make a fair point, because learning in whatever's learning area, and I mean strictly for learning, because when I was doing parallel parking in driver's ed, I nailed it every time. I got like 100. It was my head is ginormous. I'm
same
in the world. And I took a friend up to DC, and I'm kind of thinking like, yeah, we'll just park wherever I can parallel park. And then I had to figure out how to parallel park with traffic flying by, with people sitting in the restaurant watching me, with like the stop sign and the parking meter in the way, and like, all of these different factors. And lo and behold, I had to go around the block like 3 or 4 times until I found the block big enough that I could just shimmy my way in.
Yeah, I'm definitely rustier than I used to be on parallel parking. Big props to Jake who runs Out Motorsports, for his parallel parking prowess. I am so impressed every time I'm with him, especially in DC. And like when he had that Cayenne, he fit that car into spots that I would not have tried to parallel park a Yaris in. I mean, maybe that's a little over exaggerated, but just like very, very impressed with his ability to parallel park. Yeah.
I'm pretty good with parallel park, but I'll be honest, in my driver's ed class, there wasn't enough traffic parked on the street where we were practicing. So we just had one car that we had to park behind. There was nobody behind us.
That was our driving test as well.
Very, very low stakes.
That's pretty cool. We just had cones with a big flag. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So I will 100% throw shade on people from New Jersey. I mean, I'm from New York, so obviously. Not sorry to anybody from Jersey, but it still blows my mind that when you live in the state of New Jersey, you take your road test on a closed course with no other cars and just traffic cones with flags.
No, this tracks. That's why they drive like they're the only people on the road. Oh my gosh. Anytime I see a New Jersey plate out here, it's like 110 in the right lane.
Like, it's just... apparently Chris says in PA it's the same way. I'm just like, I don't... Crazy.
Well, you know what? You guys are the front runners for evolving our transportation system. You don't need to know how to drive. You're going to walk.
Oh, apparently PA has changed according to Tyler. Yeah, I think it's interesting. This is a whole other topic that I actually want to read up on before we dive into, but driver education. And I know this was a topic that came up in the Discord somewhat recently, with folks from different states and different countries. And I think that could be something really interesting. I don't know enough about what the current state of it is in the US, but I don't know. I feel like it's a very hot topic for car enthusiasts.
Driver's ed the next episode. That sounds fun. We can all find our little specialty because I'm telling you right now, I won't say one to save it for the episode, but I'll tell you one of them is going to be that everyone needs to like learn how to race, like become a weekend race car driver, just one weekend, and you've got like a lap time that you have to hit. That no matter who you are, and it's not an aggressive lap time. But you got to hit the lap time, and the car has to be put on the apex. Those are the only two rules.
Yep. Hey, that's how you get your licenses in Gran Turismo. So that's how it should happen in real life.
Agreed. Well,
I don't know. I don't know if people need time. I think just learning how to handle a car on a racetrack and all of the thought behind it and skill behind it would go a lot further, even without time trialing. This, oddly enough, is something I've thought about because I have a bunch of friends who don't have driver's licenses and never have. And I just want to bring them to one of our track events and like, afternoon, second day, or during lunch when there's chill, nobody's around, and like put a helmet on them, throw them like in my Clay's Volvo race car that, like A, there's nothing to hit, and B, it's a Volvo. If you hit anything, you're fine. And just like give them a quick 101 thing and just see what happens. Like,
yeah, I think that'd be a blast. But you need to keep a time because we want to train and teach people to have a sense of urgency when you're driving. Like, let's keep it moving, please. Chop, chop.
Yep. True.
Well, GPS says you're going to arrive at 225. Driver's ed should teach you to get there at 220.
Well, I'm curious how that, I think it was Oklahoma that had the law about ticketing left lane idlers. Like, I wonder how that's worked out.
I would love to see that enforced. I don't know how they'd pull that off, but I am very curious.
The only reason people cruise in the left lane in Oklahoma is because there's too many potholes in the right lane.
I don't know. I was driving through Oklahoma, I guess it was 3 years ago now, and they were building a shiny new highway with all the infrastructure bill money.
The first one in 50 years. Yeah, you saw that road 2 years ago? It's done. It's gone. It's just dust now.
Oh, God. I don't even want to think about infrastructure. I did have a funny thought today, speaking of driving and highways and maintenance and all that. And I was going over it was like a bridge or an overpass. And all I could think to myself was, these potholes have been filled in over and over again, and they are the same ones from like my childhood. Even before I could drive, I remember like riding in the car and being like, "Oh, we're going over that bridge on the Hutch, and there are the potholes." And like, it just amazes me.
Oh yeah,
like, and that one too, because it's on a parkway, which I don't know if these exist outside of the East Coast and Northeast. So it's like parkways trucks can't go on. It's cars only.
And you don't park there, right?
You don't park on the parkway, and the freeway is not free. What? But the reason why I mentioned that is just because like trucks put so much wear and tear. I'm thinking like Class 8 semi trucks put so much wear and tear on roads. So it's like the fact that this recurring set of potholes that's been recurring for 30 plus years is on a road that also doesn't get trucks, continues. It's like, how?
Yeah, American roadways are a whole topic, and their maintenance is definitely one of them.
Can we figure out how to get Mayor Pete on here?
We're doing it. We're going to figure that out.
Is he still Mayor Pete, or is he
at the same time
Secretary of Transportation Pete?
Well, he's not Secretary of Transportation anymore.
Well,
so
he's just Pete. He's just Pete.
He's just Pete.
Pete, come on the podcast.
We need you to build a racetrack that connects every state. No speed limit.
Yeah. In Germany, they got that Autobahn. Americans, we got to compete. We gotta come up with something better than that.
Honestly, like, why can't I drive to like California in 20 hours?
Yeah.
I mean, make it so that it's a limited access road, and even if it's like, oh, you have to pass a certain driving test, I think about, I guess the Nürburgring is technically a public highway, so you don't need anything special, but like why not do that concept? Listen, America loves privately owned enterprise, and I have to say, all those highways in Texas, they're really lovely, and they're all privately owned.
I'm down to make the streets like Mad Max. I know that a lot of other people would not be here for it, but I'm actually very okay with having to fend for your life to get to work.
I think we can unpack that in another episode.
Speaking of, should we wrap up this round of episodes
before Matthew gets any more violent? Yes.
We exceeded our hour mark anyway. We don't have a wheel reveal, but we do have a new. We're gonna try out a new little parting thought.
Did I do? Hang on. Did I do a second wheel reveal?
No.
If anyone who's like watched, have I done a second wheel reveal? Like, you've seen the Mercedes wheel. There's another wheel. Has it been shown?
I don't think so.
Wow. I think we're all waiting with bated breath to know what this wheel reveal is.
Matt says I showed a stack of them. All right, well, I'm gonna grab this wheel reveal, and we'll get to figure out what it is. Hang on, I'll be right back.
I assume it's a wheel.
I hope so. No, okay, so here's the question: is it a wheel for a car?
Maybe it's just a big wheel of Parmesan.
Oh, okay. That I'm actually more interested in that than a car wheel. like, let's be honest. A certain significant other of mine continually threatens to buy. It's like an 82-pound wheel of Parmesan because Costco sells it at some reasonable price.
That is from a WRX, right?
Yes. No.
It's either an Impreza or a WRX, but I believe it is a WRX.
I think so.
16-inch wheel.
Yeah, Matthew said, "Oh, it's too big for a WRX." The thing that I guess Matthew, you should know too, because you have a lot of wheels. Wheels without tires and not on cars look like completely different sizes from what they actually are. Like it always boggles my mind.
And in fact, I think details are coming back to me. If someone in the chat looks up like a 02 WRX, like a Bug Eye, I think this is from a Bug Eye.
Yeah, I think that's a base wheel from a Bug Eye.
So we do have a wheel reveal, and if everything goes my way, by the time we have another episode, there will be another wheel reveal.
So what's the story on these wheels, though?
They're supposed to be the winter wheels for the 86. However, I decided to just buy all seasons for the stock wheels, and I am later going to buy performance-y wheels, and the performance-y wheels... And these tires will be going on the performance-y wheels.
Aha. We have the horse before the carriage.
And these ones are summers.
Well, it makes sense because you live in the South where you don't have winter, to bring it back to the top of the hour.
Yes, because I don't need, I thought really hard about it, of buying, snow tires or winter tires specifically, or all seasons. And like, it snowed 2 weeks ago or whatever, and I just didn't leave the house, and then it was plowed, and I could drive, so I don't need those tires. But the summers do become hockey pucks, so those have to go.
No. Well, we could do a whole episode about tires. We could even get our girly pop friend from Bridgestone to join us, maybe. And we can talk tires.
My all seasons are Bridgestone. Matt, yes, the 86 is 5x100. Why do you have wheels for me? Are they 18s? Do they look good? Offset 44?
It's just becoming the Wheel Exchange podcast.
Yeah.
Matthew's Wheel Exchange. 17s. Oh no, I want 18s, but thank you so much. You didn't buy my wheels. I'm not buying yours. You should have bought mine. You had the car for it. I mean, the wheels have ended up in the perfect place. But that S220, we gotta get you some wheels on that W220.
Oh, all right. Well, on that bombshell of a wheel reveal, shall we wrap it up?
It's been really great, guys.
Oh, Ian. Really? Really?
What? No.
Cool. All right. Why don't we end on our parting thoughts, which going around the horn, talking about what car we think came out and was cool and still is cool, or what car came out and was cool and is not cool anymore.
I think the Mustang was cool, and now the Mustang is not cool because nobody can afford one, and that's my car.
I'm going to go with Honda Element because that was the car that inspired this potential parting concept. It was cool in a weird way when it came out, but not really, like dorky cool. And now it's really cool because it's the car everybody actually wants. And I don't care that it's rated ugly. It's cute to me.
I don't think they're ugly.
I'm gonna say the Focus ST was really cool. It gave the Jeep guy a run for its money. It came in Tangerine Scream, and then we realized it didn't have a lot of space and it torque steered way too much.
It had other problems too, but yes.
And good night. Thank you all for
Goodbye.